What is up, dudes? Lady dudes. Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today I'm talking about something kind of different, something a little different than I usually talk about. And I'm actually talking about some OCG stuff. So I'm talking about Link Vrain's Pack and Link Vrain's Pack 2. And we just got the like 10th cards announced for Link Vrain's Pack 2, so we have presumably exactly half of what we should be getting in Link Vrain's Pack 2, 10 out of 20 Link monsters. And I want to kind of go through Link Vrain's Pack 1 and where the power level of all those new Link monsters landed relative to Link Vrain's Pack 2 and how they compare and what kind of patterns we've seen so far. So in doing this, I kind of developed my own little tiering system. So it's a 5-tier system. It just goes tier 1 through 5, and it's kind of weird because you'd probably think that like tier 3, it's like right in the middle, that's probably average, and if it's tier 4 or 5, it's above average. If it's tier 2 or 1, it's below average. But I didn't want to do it like that. I want to do it like tier 2 is average and like tier 1 is just bad, because like if a card is bad, it doesn't matter how bad it is, it's just bad. So I put just like bad cards in tier 1, and then just like average cards tier 2, and then like tier 3 is like decent cards, like decent, pretty good cards. Tier 4 is like good cards, pretty good cards, really good cards even, and then tier 5 is just like obscenely broken cards, like very like obviously broken cards, the best of the best, very, very abusable. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to go through Link Vrain's Pack 1. We're going to look at what monsters landed where real quick, and then we're going to go through Link Vrain's Pack 2 and see which monsters out of those 10 we have so far land where in Link Vrain's Pack 2. And then I'm going to compare and kind of look at some notes and just kind of take a peek at like the differences between the two and where we are so far with Link Vrain's Pack 2. So as far as tier 1 goes, nothing crazy, pretty obvious, Master King Archfiend and Shaddoll Construct. Also, guys, keep in mind, this is my personal kind of like list, so if you disagree with like slight tiering, like I don't think anything would jump 2 tiers, but like I'm sure some of them may move down a tier for you personally or move up a tier personally, but just keep in mind, this is supposed to be like, this is going to be pretty close. I mean, it's only a 5-tier system. It's kind of hard for these to waver too much. Maybe some things move 1 tier up or down for you, but it shouldn't be crazy. So that's not really the focus of this video. The main thing is that they're close, at least within 1 of where you would keep it. So for tier 1 in Link Vrain's Pack 1, I have Construct and Master King Archfiend. They're just bad. They're just bad cards. I don't want to go too much into these. Like, we all know what these cards do. Gladiator Beast Dragacy is just underwhelming for what all the Glad Beast players wanted. Cleefart Genius. It's Cleefart Genius. I'm actually going to call it that every time from now on. Cleefart Genius. Nice. It's okay. It's average. This is average stuff. So I just Steel Storm Origin, Mandolce Fresh Sistart, Pyco Felina. Obviously, some of those might waver. Definitely Pyco, but I am biased and I love Inzektor, so I wanted it in tier 2 instead of tier 1. I don't want to believe it's tier 1. Then we move to tier 3. So these are the pretty good cards: Zephyr Metaltron, Alistair the Invoker of Madness, Mermail Abyss Alacia, Ritual Beast Ulti Kimun Falcos, making Rit Beast relevant, sort of, in 2018. Then we have Crowley, the Prophecy monster we still do not have, as well as the Hieratic Seal monster we still do not have. Both pretty good cards. Then we move to tier 4. We've got Phantom Quartz, Aromatherapy Jasmine, and Curious. I do want to give a quick note for these. So the reason these didn't make it tier 5, and obviously some people might want them in tier 5, because they are very, very good cards. The problem for me is, for Phantom Quartz, Gem Knights as a whole are just so kind of out of date now for what Yu-Gi-Oh needs to be successful, that it's kind of dragged down by the archetype it's a part of. So that's why Phantom Quartz lands in tier 4 instead of tier 5. Aromatherapy Jasmine just relies on life points too much, that if your opponent did something to burn you or something, it's too reliable on something that's not always a guarantee for you to have more of than your opponent. So it definitely, its ceiling comes down a little bit, but I do love that it's generic. And then Curious is obscenely powerful. The only thing is what makes him. You need 3 materials instead of 2, and the requirements are kind of strange. Needing same attributes but different types is kind of awkward for a lot of decks, so a lot of decks cannot use Curious, so that's why he ended up in 4 instead of 5. And then we move to tier 5 here. We have I Sold, obviously obscenely broken. Like, I'm pretty sure Gokis never would be as good as they are without I Sold, and I think everybody would agree. Then we have Cherubini. We've seen Cherubini's in half. She's in half the extra decks in the OCG. Heavy Metal Trifo's Electromite, the card that's the reason why Pendulum Magicians were so dominant for so long. And the FTK came out and all that stuff. Not surprised that it's at 1. It's also very generic. Also keep in mind, that's another thing I put these guys in tier 5 is because they're all very generic to make. Any 2 warriors, any 2 level 3 monsters, any 2 pendulum monsters, and any 2 monsters, period, as long as one is a tuner. So obviously all very generic. Needlefire, when it comes out, will be a dark, dark explosion of a day. So get pumped for that. So anyway, that's where all of the Link Vrains Pack 1 monsters land for me. They may, like I said, they may waver here and there for you in between tiers, but it should be pretty close for the most part. And then as far as the Link Vrains Pack 2 goes, as far as tier 1, the only tier 1 monster I have here is Thunder Dragon Goliath. Who would have thought that an actual, like the only monster here that's like actually like a meta deck monster, yeah, pretty much, is the only one in tier 1. And it's pretty much just because it's a Link 4, like Thunder Dragons, when they put 4 materials on board, it's like 3 or 4 Thunder Dragons, or 2 Thunder Dragons and some Summon Summoner, which they usually use to link off anyways, or fusion off anyway, contact fuse anyway. So it's just like, even if you had the materials to make this, you wouldn't make it. You're giving up so much to just get nothing, like such little in return. Then when we move to tier 2, we have Harpy Conductor. I'm sorry, Harpy players. I wish this card was higher on here. I wish I could put it higher, but it's just not better than it is. So it's still average. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just okay. Same thing with Alien Shock Trooper. This card is kind of like Phantom Quartz, where it's kind of dragged down by the rest of Aliens. The Parshoth Link monster. This monster could have straight up just been a Link 2. This did not need to be a Link 3 at all. Like, no fairy decks like spam the field enough to like make him. I guess like Venus? Like Venus can spam the board to make this, but like other than that, I can't even think of like a fairy deck that actually spams that much. Like even Trickstars, like Trickstar struggle to get 3 on board. They can do 2 easy, but like 3 can be tough. You can't do 2 or 3 in a lot of hands. Boy. So then we go to tier 3 though. We have the Magical Musket Monster. Obviously this one could easily be better, but we need to see more support for Magical Muskets for this to be a tier 4. But obviously the ceiling is huge. The ceiling for this card is incredibly high. But we just need to wait and see what happens with the archetype. Double Header Anger Knuckle, a pretty good just combo piece. It can use itself to get any rank 10 train back from grave, or level 10 train from grave, and it's just a solid combo piece. Nothing more to say. DD King Gilgamesh. I think some people may disagree because I heard some people hate this card. I heard some people like this card. I just think there will be situations where he is going to be better than going into Electromite, because if you make him, you won't be able to use anything other than DD monsters from your extra deck. But that's okay, because DDs have some solid interruption cards in the extra deck. So I think it's a pretty good card. And then Dragoonity Romulus. I put this card here because it's actually pretty generic. Takes any 2 dragons or winged beasts, and it adds Dragon Ravine. So if you're just playing in a dragon deck, like maybe, I don't know, Guard Dragons, when that new stuff comes out, you can search Dragon Ravine in this deck. Just all you have to do is link summon this and add Dragon Ravine to deck. So that's pretty good, I believe. Then we go to tier 4. So for tier 4, we have the BLS monster. It's just so generic and so powerful. As long as you make this guy with 1 level 7 or higher monster, this card is insanely powerful. This card can like win games by itself. Like some decks just cannot deal with this card. So it's just very good overall. I didn't think it was tier 5 material, however. And then the last card on here is the Great General, the 6 Samurai. 6 Samurai players rejoice. I know 6 Samurai is one of the most beloved archetypes in all of the game. It's great. This card's phenomenal. It searches your your gateway of the 6 Samurai, which is phenomenal, just because even if it's at 1, now you can search it with a very easy to make Link monster. So nice. Doesn't even matter that it's at 1 now. And also it can get huge, especially if you use, I know there's a combo where you can make infinite counters with Gateway, and then you can just kill in one hit with this thing, which is pretty crazy. So keep that in mind. But this card doesn't have any protection effects, so it's very easily interruptible. That's why I put it here at tier 4 instead of tier 5, and it's also locked into 6 Samurai, so it's not generic like the monsters from Link Vrains Pack 1 are. Now, so that's where we land for all of them. No tier 5s. I put tier 5 here, but there's no tier 5s for me. Obviously, you may disagree, and there may be one in there. Maybe put like BLS up there if you think the 6 Samurai is that good, but it's not generic. It has no protection, so it's easily interrupted and stuff. It just wasn't quite there. Like, still very, very good card, just not quite tier 5 for me. So, when we look at the overall numbers, when we look at Link Vrains Pack 1, we have tier 2, two tier 1 monsters. We have 5 tier 2 monsters, 6 tier 3 monsters, 3 tier 4 monsters, and 4, count them, 4 tier 5 monsters. Then when we look at what we have so far for Link Vrains Pack 2, we have 1 tier 1 monster, 3 tier 2 monsters, 4 tier 3 monsters, and 2 tier 4 monsters. I feel like I might have messed up some of that, but I feel like it was good. Hopefully. Anyway, what I'm saying is that we have 10 out of presumably 20 Link monsters for Link Vrains Pack 2, and we have 0 tier 5 monsters, or what I would call tier 5 monsters. Whereas, assuming we've been through half, we should have 2. And this can be attributed to a couple things. So this could be, 1, either Konami said, whoa, like we went overboard with Link Vrains Pack 1. We made too many monsters with not enough restrictions, too generic, and they were just too powerful. They took the game over by themselves. And we can't let that happen again in Link Vrains Pack 2. We can make very good cards, just not broken cards that are super generic like that. So that could be the first thing, that they realized what they did in the first pack and don't want to do it again quite the same. Or they're saving the best for last. They might still be planning to drop 4 obscenely broken cards in the last half, because maybe they're like, these are the sprinkle cards, these are the pretty good cards, and some really good cards. But we're raising the hype, they're raising the hype, and then at the very end, bam, you get the most broken cards all at once, and you're just like, whoa, my brain is blown. So we will see where that goes, but I am still worried. Not worried, I mean, I don't want cards that broken. I actually would like a ton of, like, honestly, if literally the pack was like 10, if the pack was like 6 tier 4s, 7 tier 3s, and 6 tier 2s, I would be happy. Like, the worst everything was, you had like a third of it was average, a third of it was pretty good, and a third of it was really good. Not broken, but really good cards. So that's like the dream for me, because I don't want obscenely broken cards, and I don't want poop cards. Like, what's the point of printing poop cards? Like, it's just taking up slots, and we could be getting actual good support for archetypes that deserve some love, man. So, I don't know. I've just been thinking about that, and I'm curious. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think the second half of Link Vrains Pack 2 will pick it up, and we will get, let me know if you think any. Let me know, how about this? For your comment, if you comment on this video, let me know how many tier 5 monsters end up being in Link Vrains Pack 2, as well as tier 4. Let me know tier 4 too, because we already have 2, so we already have the 6 Samurai and the BLS. Let me know how many more tier 4s you think we'll get, and how many tier 5s we'll get total in Link Vrains Pack 2 overall. So I'm going to leave it there, guys. Let me know what you think about this video. If you want me to make more videos like this, just kind of things that I think about that are weird. I have another video idea that seems pretty cool, that I think is really cool. Of like, I've seen some things, and I think we may have some future, like, very obvious support that, like, there's just so many signs in certain archetypes just pointing at these things. There's like ninjas, noble knights that literally just like clearly point at like someday getting certain cards. Like, even the names, like, you know the name because of how like the names are set up prior. So that's a really cool video I'm thinking about doing in the future. But I'm gonna get out of here now. Before I talk your ears off, it's already been 15 minutes. I'm sorry. I don't mean for these videos to end up going this long, but I end up rambling, and I have a problem with rambling. But yeah, I'm going to get out of here for now, guys. Let me know what you think about this video. If you enjoyed it, subscribe for more Yu-Gi-Oh content. I'm trying to make this YouTube thing a thing if I can, so that would be much appreciated. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your night, morning, It's 3:30 a.m. right now. What am I doing with myself at 3:30 a.m.? Ay. Have a good one, guys. Peace.